And welcome back to another episode of TWiP Weddings. My name is Bruce Clark, and once again I'm joined in the co-host chair by Mr. Robert Evans and Mr. Brian Caparici. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. For those watching the video, Robert's in the dark today. He hasn't paid his electric bill, so he's in the dark today. So we can't see his video, but we can hear him loud and clear. So we're gonna roll with that. So
I'm actually having a bad face day, so I just thought I'd spare our audience.
I always have a bad face day. They always say I have a face made for radio, so or a face made for podcasting. So awesome. Well, this week we've got Christmas isn't too far off. We're just a few weeks away, and so we decided we're going to dedicate this episode to sharing some strategies for increasing your holiday sales, so you can finish your year off on a strong note. But before we get into that discussion, we want to remind you how you can participate in the show. We've got several different ways to interact with us. First, you can visit the website at www.thisweekinphoto.com/weddings. There you'll find the show notes for each episode, which contain links to everything that we mentioned on the show. And you can also leave your comments and feedback for us in the comments section. If you do have a question or a suggestion for a topic that we can talk about in a future episode, you can also email us. Our email address is twipwed@thisweekinphoto.com, or if you prefer using social media, just add the hashtag TWIPWed to your post, and we'll periodically keep our eye out for those posts as well. And if you want to follow us and interact with us, we're on Instagram. You can follow us over there at TWIPWed. And we also have a Facebook group. Be sure to check that out. We'll have links to that. Join our Facebook group. We're getting new members every week, and discussions kind of starting on there. So jump on in our Facebook group and participate. So without further ado, let's jump into the show. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
Do it. Awesome. Well, so this week we decided we wanted to talk about. Brian, you actually decided you came up with this topic, and I thought it was a really good suggestion. We want to talk about how to drive your Christmas sales. So obviously we're all kind of based here in North America. So first, a caveat: we're going to acknowledge the fact that we're in kind of talking from a North American centric angle. So obviously we've got listeners worldwide, and things may be a bit different in your region. You might be coming into high season, for example, if you're in somewhere warm climate like Australia, for example. But here in North America, for most wedding photographers, wedding season around the Christmas time definitely starts to wind down a little bit. I know there are, some people have Christmas weddings or New Year's Eve weddings, but in general, wedding season does start to kind of taper off, and it does slow down a little bit. And along with that, so too do sales tend to slow down a little bit as well. And I know a lot of photographers who kind of wonder, they're kind of like bears. They're going to go into hibernation for a couple of months. They're going to wonder, have they stocked up enough, fat stores to make it through the winter months, right? So they kind of wonder if I got enough in the bank account to get me through, January, February, March, when things, maybe the money isn't rolling in like it is during wedding season. So in this episode, we're going to talk about some strategies, talk about maybe ways you could drive some sales this Christmas and end your year off on a strong note to make sure you've got some of those extra dollars in your bank account to get you through those leaner months. So let's just talk a little bit about the seasonality of what we do as wedding photographers, and maybe your guys' experiences on, when is your slow season? Because obviously people in different regions and different areas, it's going to be a bit different. Like I know Melissa Jill, who we have on the show from time to time, her busy season isn't during the summer because she's based down in Arizona, and it's way too hot. People don't want to get married when it's hot like the surface of the sun. So she tends to be quieter in the summer, whereas here up in Canada, that's June, July, August. That's our peak months when we're busy. So what's it like in your guys' area in terms of, do you have seasonality in your business, and when is that? When are your highs and your lows?
I think probably most places, other than a few states, probably do follow into the traditional. I know in Los Angeles, California, we're still the slowest months, January, February, March. December can be a little slow, but sometimes you're doing holiday parties or, things like that. But I've kind of always noticed, the upswing to wedding season begins in April and tapers down in November. I have a good friend, Carlos Baez, who's in Miami, and he says, they're busy during the months, generally upswing in November, downswing in May, because Florida's hot and humid, as well as it's hurricane season, so they always kind of run that risk. So I think people are less likely to want to try to plan their weddings in those months. And obviously people want it cooler and not as humid.
Yep. Brian, how about you? What's it like in your region of the world? You're in Niagara, right?
Yeah, so I'm in Ontario, so we have the snow season, usually from December to, March, Aprilish, depending on the year. Um, I think Bruce, you and I are probably the same. Like, for us, wedding season is mid to end April, right up until, beginning of November. And then obviously there's usually a few outliers. I've had New Year's Eve weddings. I've got a wedding this year in December. I had a couple this past year in February. So I mean, you certainly do get them in the off season, but I'd say for the most part for Canadians, the bulk of the wedding season is, April to November-ish. Um, with that being said, like I just maybe if we can just double back for a second, Bruce, you skimmed over something, and I want to maybe just give it a little bit more time to breathe
Yeah.
because um, I think we've all been there, and I think we all get there, and I want to just acknowledge to the photographers listening that it's okay when you get there, and it's that time come February, March, April when you're in the off season, you haven't had the deposits coming in, you haven't had the wedding payments come in, you haven't had the sessions and all that, and things get tight, things get tough, and I think many photographers get to that point where it's almost like, will I even survive? Like, should I go look for another job? I know a lot of photographers locally who are, really great wedding photographers that run a really great full-time business that they've gotten to that point where it gets really, really tight in that, late off season that they're saying, I should get a job somewhere else, just like on weekends or surveying, just to make a little bit of extra money to pay the bills. And I guess, want to acknowledge that if you've been there or if you get there, it's okay because everyone goes through it. But what you have to do is learn from it and then plan accordingly to not get there next year. And it's sort of all about being smart with your money and planning for it. And I think, the discussions that we're going to have today about Christmas, you can have a huge influx of cash and capital come December if you plan out your season well and if you plan out your marketing well for it, and it's a intentional decision instead of it just being a reactionary thing where it's like, oh crap, I'm going to run out of money in a few months, I should put up a sale. So if you're
Yeah.
smart about it, you can have a really good injection of money, and then if you're smart about spending your money in the off season, that money can easily last you through until the season starts up again. But I guess I just wanted to give that some room to breathe, to acknowledge, to say everyone goes through it. It's okay if you've gone through it. Just try and plan around it and expect it and know it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that back up and talked about that because I think everybody encounters that, whether they're at the beginning of their career or even in the middle of their career. That we've all probably been through it and all gone through it, right? And like you say, it comes down to proper planning. Budgeting plays a big role in that. I know it's tempting when all that money's coming in that gear acquisition syndrome. People run out and they buy all this gear and then they go, oh no, how am I going to pay rent in February and March, right? So yeah, definitely acknowledging those seasonalities and those slower times and planning, like you say, with intent, so that you can get through those ups and downs in the business cycle for sure. So
Yeah.
so let's talk about that. Let's again, we're getting close on Christmas, so maybe some of this advice, maybe it might be late for some people to implement for this Christmas season, maybe not. But I think what it can do is plant the seeds that you start thinking about these things, say, next year. So not waiting until, say, December to suddenly go, oh crap, I'm going to run out of money in February, I better find a way to quickly get some sales in December. Maybe you start planning this out and thinking about it in like June or July. So for both of you, I'm going to ask both of you, are there things that you do at Christmas on a regular basis, or that you've been doing in your business on a regular basis? And if so, like, when did you start planning those things, or what are they? So maybe, Robert, let's throw it to you. What kind of things do you do? Is there any special things you do at your studio around the Christmas season?
Okay, well, before I do that, I want just a real quick answers on this, since Brian brought that up, and we've all been through that before. But what are some of the things that you can do that you guys have done for fast cash, like the shite moment where you're like, okay, I need to generate some cash really quickly. Like, what are some of the things you've done in the past in those months to get some quick cash?
Okay, I'll quickly take this, and then Bruce, pass it back over to you.
Sure.
One of the things that I've done in the past when I've gotten to that point where you need a quick cash injection is a family portrait plan. Now, I know this isn't necessarily directly related to wedding photography, but it's something that I've done in the past with past wedding clients that I know are either pregnant or already have a child, or I'll basically reach out to them and say, I'm offering this great new plan only to some of my favorite select clients in the past. This isn't something that you can just call and book and get. It's only for existing clients, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to get into it. And basically what it is you pay up front for 10 portrait sessions with me that can be used within 10 years, so 1 a year. And with that, with every portrait session, because you're buying them in bulk up front, each one is heavily discounted, and we'll also be including an 8x10 print with each session. And then afterwards, you can go ahead and purchase anything that you'd like to from the session itself. So if you plan that out properly, that could easily be $1,000 per client. And so if you were to reach out to 20 of your clients, it's a great deal if you present it in the right way to your client. If you've established a really good relationship with them and they want to continue working with you as their photographer, most clients wouldn't turn that down. So if you got 10 of your clients on board with it, that's a quick way to $10,000, and it also guarantees you the business for the next 10 years.
Nice. That's a good strategy.
Good.
I haven't encountered it yet, because up until last year, I also had a secondary job. I had another full-time job that I was doing, so I never really had to worry about it. I'm worrying about it this year. Definitely, it's on my radar and something that I'm keeping a close tabs on. Now, I've been pretty good at budgeting and planning for it possibly being a little slower during January, February, March. Now, I don't just do wedding photography. I also do some commercial work and some event work too. And then I also teach, so that's something that I do during the winter months, is I teach. So I know kind of up front that I've got some revenue coming in those months. I'm second shooting still, so I've got a few friends. I've already got 4 or 5 winter weddings kind of through January, February, March that I'm second shooting. So I kind of know that I'll be able to keep the lights on and keep the heat going and put gas in the car. So I'm not too stressed about that. But one quick strategy, or one thing that might work, is I'm looking back through at our again, sort of like Brian, kind of work and see if there's ways that you can mine your existing customer database, and what can you offer your existing customers that maybe they hadn't thought of. So maybe going back to those wedding clients that didn't do parent albums, and maybe offering some kind of a special on parent album, because I know a lot of times even the album companies themselves will offer promotions around the Christmas period, and sometimes you can take advantage of those promotions and then pass those promotions along to your clients. So kind of looking for ways that you can kind of mine your existing customer database and see if there's any revenue opportunities. And we'll get into that, talk about what are some of the different products that maybe you might consider. But those would be some quick things, short of going to a pawn shop or selling my body, which wouldn't get me very much. Those would be the quick cash things that I could think of. Robert, how about you? What would you do for quick cash? Keep it PG now.
Well, my winter job is I have an Etsy store where I knit doilies with my clients' faces on them.
Nice.
They really like that.
They like that?
Yeah. No, I'm going to give you something that I've actually done in the past. I haven't done it in a long time, but I was thinking about that, which is sort of why I answered the question, or asked the question, not answered it. Is tap into, kind of like you guys are alluding to, but tap into the resources that you already have. Most photographers have clients booked 6 months to a year in advance, so maybe you have a full calendar in those summer months. So in the past, when I had the same situation and I was cash flow poor in the slower months, I reached out to my existing wedding clients that had already booked me, and I said to them, I gave them a deal, and I said, if you're willing to pay an extra $1,000 towards your package right now, I'll give you a $500 credit towards anything you want. So you can adjust that to your own business. If $1,000 is too much, you could do a $500 credit. You can do, you can give away a print, a 16 by whatever you want to do in lieu of it. But when I would do that, people would respond. They go, this is a great deal, so I'm going to make $500. And I'd raise $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 in a couple of weeks just by sending out emails to the weddings that I already had booked.
So wait a minute, I just have to clarify because I was a bit confused.
Yeah,
on that. So you offered them something so they'd have to pay $1,000 to get a $500 credit. I
Correct.
don't know
So
how I would take up on that. I'm not sure.
no, I would say if you're willing to pay $1,000 towards your balance, which technically isn't
Oh,
due.
they're paying towards their
Oh, I
balance.
gotcha,
Okay,
gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. Sorry,
so it's a
gotcha.
payment incentive.
Yeah,
Yeah, just make a payment now, which
Ah,
technically isn't due until 3 weeks before your wedding, whatever your policy
right.
is.
Yep.
And if
right.
you're willing to give me $1,000 of the 4,000, 5,000, whatever you owe me, then I will pass along. I'll give you a $500 credit that you can use. You can do whatever you want with that. Even if they opted to get a parent album, we all know that it doesn't cost us $500 to produce that parent album. So
Gotcha.
you can do whatever you want. You decide what you want to give, what your value add to them is. The carrot in front of the horse. But I'd find people would respond to it. I mean, even so much that I said I would even say the first 10 people, the first 5 people that respond only get this. I'm only offering it. I can't do it for everyone. And
Gotcha.
I get 5, 6 people, boom, right off the bat. And then I'd maybe get like, wow, I just got 10 grand in deposits or whatever it was. And then I'd say, I get more people asking, it's like, and I'd say no. I'm like, oh, sorry, I already reached my limit or whatever.
Gotcha. So,
Um,
so your strategy was more about sort of just changing that cash flow ebb and flow, not so much necessarily bringing in more additional revenue on top of what you already
Correct,
had.
correct.
Gotcha.
It was just tapping into people, if you looked at your books, people already owe you, you have, let's say you have 25 weddings in the summer and they're all, May through November.
Yeah.
Ask those people and say, hey, I'm willing to give you, if you just want to pay 1,000 or 500, towards your balance. And I was honest, I would say, I even said like, I do this, the winter months are like a little slower cash flow, so in order to generate income, I do this special. It's only offered to the first 10 people who respond, and people would jump at it.
Cool.
Hey, I'm just kind of spitballing here, and this kind of gave me a thought. I've never considered this, but I'm just kind of thinking it out loud right now, brainstorming. But what if, as a wedding photographer, you wanted to make that always the case, in the sense that instead of doing, like, most of us do a big deposit and then a big amount before the wedding and the remaining balance after the wedding, what if instead you were able to say to your client, our payment plan is 10 payments for the next 10 months, split out to be whatever the amount would be, and then that way you as the photographer has a more consistent cash flow as opposed to these ups and downs. That's just an idea that I just thought of, to think that might be a way to give yourself more consistency in the off season.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. Yeah.
Or even thirds, like it's a
Right.
it's a third now and then a third, and then you say, I do a November payment, and just keep everybody on the same month, so
Right.
November, or even like do what I'm saying, but offer that as an incentive when they're booking. Like, hey,
Right.
I usually ask for a $2,000 deposit, whatever you choose. I said, but then I also do this offer where if you're willing to make another payment in December, right around the holidays and when time's short and it's with cash flow in the studio, I'll give you X. And then your balance won't be due until, July 1st for your July 14th wedding or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good thought for sure. Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of places, they offer that, right? Like a payment, like get it now for just 3 easy payments of $29.99. So you could break absolutely. You could break. I like that idea. Is you could break your payment structure up such that it's spread it out a little bit more over the year, so it isn't suddenly like you're not. Who was it? Duck McScrooge, in July and August, where you're sitting on your giant pile of money, and then
Right.
and then there's nothing the rest of the year. Definitely a good way to kind of even out those ebbs and flows in the cash flow.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like
for
it
sure.
would work. It would help you as the photographer in that cash flow, but also I feel like it could be potentially even like a sales tool, in the sense that if someone's looking at, let's say they have a budget of $5,000, but they really want what's in your $7,000 package. That's an easy way to say, well, listen, like, let's go ahead and book that package. It's really only going to change your monthly payment by $25 a month or whatever works out to be. It's bad math, but like it makes the hit on their wallet and on their credit card much more, much less aggressive, right? Like you could say,
Right.
like, if we do it that way, you can go ahead and book the package you want and get everything you want. It's going to be $500 for each payment over the next year. Is that okay with you? And then that's something that's much easier to swallow for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there are probably a lot of other wedding vendors are probably doing things the exact same way, where it's this big upfront retainer or deposit, whatever you want to call it, and
Right.
then the final balance due maybe 2, 3 weeks or a month before the wedding. So they're suddenly getting hit a month before the wedding with all, catering and venue and photographer, and it's a big outlay of cash, and
Right.
that might be putting them in a financial crunch too. So if you can maybe offer a way to spread that out and make the hit a little less painful,
Right.
yeah, it definitely might. You
Yeah,
might be able to, like, say, book that bigger package or
it's sort
grab
of
some
like
retail.
even rethinking maybe just the simplicity. I know this is sort of saying the same thing, but how you do your deposit. If you're the photographer says I take half now and half, 2 weeks before the wedding, and maybe you don't need half. I mean, I know I take a lesser of a deposit up front because I want the balance around the wedding because I have more expenses then. But let's say you have a $5,000 wedding package and you do half. That's your policy. I think a lot of photographers do that. So you're going to take $2,500 and then another $2,500 before the wedding. But maybe you do this, what we're talking about. You're like, you know what? I'll take $1,500 now, and then in December, whenever you decide you want to do it, we do $1,000 payment, and then you're at half, and then your balance will be the rest of it will be due before the money. It's just sort of rethinking the amount of money and when you take that money.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
For sure, yeah. I know we changed our, like, the very first year in business. I think we only had 6 weddings booked. I mean, it was our very first year in business, and we were late, kind of getting into it, and we had 3 cancel, just
Oh,
break up, or just 3 in one year. And I said, "Is this how it's always going to be?" People said that was very unusual, like 3 out of like half of our weddings. And at that point in time, we were only taking like a 25% retainer. So we kind of upped our retainer at that point to a 50% retainer. But yeah, I like your suggestion, Robert, of maybe maybe still getting it, but maybe spreading it out over a couple months, or for sure. So yeah, there's definitely some cash flow management ways that you can deal with, maybe taking your retainers from your existing clients that can help, again, spread that cash flow out over the year a little bit smoother, and even out those bumps in the road, so you don't have these high highs and low lows in terms of cash flow.
right.
So let's sort of just circle back to kind of the Christmas season, which is kind
Let's
of what we
answer the
wanted to get.
question.
But no, it's good. Yeah, no, I like that because it's a very good strategy for sure. So do you guys have any specific Christmas campaigns or things that you do each year at Christmas time that you find are effective in terms of driving some revenue and kind of ending the year off on a good bang?
Robert, I'll let you start.
Um, yes, I mean I do run a portrait campaign. Right now it's late September, early October, and we've already started it. I've done a Facebook campaign where I take some portraits. I just put it up on my business page, and then I promote it. So I spend money. We've talked about this on the show, and I promote it. I just did one recently where I allocated $500 sort of as an experiment, and I picked some cities. I picked the age demographic, women, and it reached around. I want to say it said the reach was like 30,000 people, and I definitely got interaction on the page itself, people asking about packages, people booking appointments. So it's one of the first times I've sort of experimented. I've done a little bit before, but like in this case, beyond the other promotions that you might strategize and plan for, mailings, reaching out to your past clients, that type of thing. I think one of the other things that I've done in the past, where you could reach out to all the people whose weddings that you've photographed this year up until the holidays or around then. And we all know our clients are procrastinators, and everybody takes forever to order albums, and again, offer some sort of special. But in this case, I like to do like a reprint special because, as most of you know, um, you know, I think less and less people, of course, now are ordering paper prints, but it's our job as photographers to make that happen. So I do like kind of offer like a 2-for-1 special, or if you spend $500, I'll give you a $300 credit, or those type of things. You can offer that, especially with reprints, because there's some good margin there.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good way, again, to people will jump on it. or spend $500 on, reprints and gifts for the holidays, and we'll give you a free 11 by 14 or whatever it is. But those tend to work really well.
Okay. Excellent. Brian, how about you? What kind of campaigns do you run at your studio around Christmas?
I actually made like a little list here that I thought maybe I could just run through quickly.
Yeah.
Because I think like I said earlier, I think you have to plan for it. I think you have to be sort of ahead of yourself on it. It can't just be necessarily a reactionary thing, although we just have given some good ideas to allow for sort of some quick capital. But if you plan for it properly, I think it could be really beneficial. The first one that I almost every year plan for is doing some kind of gift certificate promotion. So around Christmas time, this would just be something that I'd market to my existing clients, but also out there in the open on social media. Perhaps I've even run ads before in newspapers and radio things in the past as well. But some kind of gift certificate promotion, and I've toyed with different formats of it. The one that I always like doing, that I find to be most beneficial, is whatever gift certificate amount you purchase, you'll get that in a credit towards prints at your viewing appointment.
Okay. So if they buy like a $200 gift certificate?
Exactly, yeah. So if you buy a $200 or a $300 gift certificate now, that will cover your portrait session, and you'll have $300 to use towards prints at your viewing appointment. So they're basically getting the session for free, more or less. But for me, in the model of business that I run, by doing in-person sales and all that, the session itself is almost inconsequential in terms of the overall amount that I would get from a portrait session at a viewing appointment.
Right. Yeah.
So that's one model that I've used. I've also done it before where it's if you buy $200 gift certificate, you get half of its value in addition. So if you buy $200, you get a $300 gift certificate. If you buy $500, you get $50. So you get an extra 50% on top of it to use towards whatever you want to use. So I've done that model as well in the past. But again, like those are things that you could market to your existing clients. You could market it to the public on social media and ads, whatever you want to do, and you could have some quick capital there as well, because everyone wants to buy those things for Christmas to give as gifts. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I've done before. I've done the idea of like en masse extending all of the online galleries around Christmas time. So like around Christmas time, when I know that I'd have time to get the orders in, make the prints, and then deliver them for Christmas, so usually sometime around beginning of November, I'll email all of my past clients for the past year and say, I've opened up your gallery again for 1 week. Here's a promotion that we have going on for prints, and we're guaranteeing that if you order them by the time the gallery closes, you can get those prints in for Christmas time. So kind of similar to what Robert was talking about.
Yeah, I want to circle back and I want to talk about those deadline things, because I think that's an important thing for new photographers who maybe hadn't considered or thought about those things. So we'll come back
and actually, I guess related to that, I always make my deadlines for albums and for prints very known to my clients, and those expectations are extremely clear to them with plenty of notice. So if I know that my cutoff time for my album company is December 1st, in order for them to guarantee it to me for Christmas time, I usually work about 2 weeks behind that, and I tell my clients it's 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
So that way I know that as long as I have clients that order it by that date, that's 2 weeks before, I can get it ordered and in to my studio to deliver to them for Christmas time.
Yeah.
So I use that almost as a means of not getting them to rush, but I just let them know, hey, if you wanted to get your wedding album in, I know you haven't gotten an album yet, our deadline is November 10th, whatever the date is. And if you want to get it in for Christmas time, let's go ahead and get that finished up now and get it done for Christmas time. So it'll kind of just light a bit of a fire under their butt and get them moving.
Yeah.
I would also use this in the same kind of campaign, a promotion of saying, I know that we're in communication, we're getting this album done for you for Christmas time, but have you considered getting parent albums? If you want to go ahead and get a parent album with your main album, the price is significantly discounted because it's bundled together. And then that would be a great Christmas gift for your parents for Christmas, and we can guarantee you're going to get it in for Christmas. So do you want to go ahead and add that into the package now? So it could be a little bit of an upsell if you're already in communications about a wedding album with them.
Especially if your album company does clone albums or duplicate books of the main album.
Right. I mean, even for me, if it's not like, so I use Fineo, and the albums that I typically do for parents are like a cheaper clone version of it, but that's a new product line that they have. They never used to have that, so I used to have to basically order a second album that wasn't a clone. But for me, the cost of the album itself is so minimal in comparison to the cost of my time that would go into the editing, the retouching, the designing, the ordering, the packaging, all that stuff. So I save all that time by doing a duplicate parent album because I don't have to redesign it, I don't have to retouch it. It all gets packaged together in the same thing. So it saves me a ton of time. So even if I'm paying the full price of the parent album, I'm still saving, $400 roughly of my time that would go into it. So I can still discount it pretty heavily.
Yeah.
The last one that I had here, well, I guess I've got two ones. Bruce, now you're going to talk about one of them, so I'm going to skip over it. It's about the idea of doing gifts to your clients.
Okay.
But the last one that I had is doing some kind of mini session promotion. Now, this would need to be a little bit more pre-planned, so perhaps a little bit earlier than like November, because it would basically be like a mini session Christmas theme that you could have your clients come in and do, and then they would get those prints and the products from that particular session for Christmas time. This isn't something that I've done because I don't really do mini sessions, but I've seen a lot of photographers, when planned properly, they can make a really good business by doing mini sessions. So that would be sort of the last suggestion.
Mini sessions.
I know it's got a negative connotation, and I mean I think we probably could have a whole episode talking just about it because I think there's a lot of things that you can do from a business perspective that can make mini sessions really, really successful. I think the way most photographers do it probably isn't super optimal.
You think?
But I think when planned properly, I really do think mini sessions, I think that even the word mini sessions we need to throw out and kind of reframe it a little bit. But when planned properly, I think mini sessions, for lack of a better word, can be really effective and profitable.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Those
are some of just a few of the ideas that I had. Bruce, I'm really curious to hear. I know that you're doing some gifting ideas for your clients this year, and I know I've done that in the past, and it's been really effective. But maybe I'll pass the sort of conch shell over to you and let you talk about that.
Yeah. So I mean, in the past, we've always done we send our clients a Christmas card and things like that, or some some acknowledgement around the Christmas season just to thank them for their business for that year. Again, some of our couples that we shot maybe early in the spring, we've finished our last kind of touch point with them maybe it was August or September. So it's just kind of another way to put ourselves in front of our clients. Again, the intent is just we want to thank them for their business. Hopefully that spurs something that they say, hey, it would be a good time to do a family photo, or I've got another friend getting married, something like that. So something we're going to do this year is it's going to be my pick. So I don't want to give it away just yet, but when we get to our pick of the week, I'm going to share what we're going to be sending to our clients this year. It's just a little bit of a thank you, a little nice little touch. So again, it's not necessarily increasing revenue. I'm spending money to do this. It's going to be part of our marketing dollars for this year. But the intent is that hopefully it will maybe bring about some additional referrals. Just get our name out there again in front of our client, remind them that we're there. Maybe they work for a company that's having a Christmas party and they need a photographer to cover an event, or there's other things that it could lead to potentially. So one of the things we're looking at doing again is marketing to our existing client base, in the sense of sending them some thank you gifts. And then the other thing that I'm looking at doing this year is running a bit of a Boxing Day campaign, a very limited time. I'm going to probably run it just for a couple of days, and we're going to look back over at our clients that maybe haven't purchased their engagement images. Maybe they chose they didn't want to get a full digital collection of their engagement images, because we do engagement sessions with all of our couples, and then depending on which package that they've booked, sometimes they get some print product from it, sometimes they get some digital files depending on the package. So for those that maybe booked a package that didn't include any product, and if they decided that they didn't, maybe they couldn't afford it at that time, they're going to run a little bit of a promotion and offer them a bit of a discount on a digital collection of their engagement files. Because basically those files are sitting there on our hard drive, not really doing anything for us at this point. They're not generating any revenue. So if we can get them to generate a bit of revenue for us, it's, again, if we've had 20 weddings, maybe if 5 or 6 of them take us up on that offer, again, it's just that little injection of cash flow. It might not be a huge amount. Maybe it's a couple $1,000s, but that can be that extra couple thousand that you didn't have in January or February. So we're going to look at doing that, and again, just running it as a limited time promo, and then basically after that, saying this will be the last time the files will be available. So give it a definite sort of like, this is the last time you'll be able to purchase your files. Here's this limited time kind of offer. and hopefully again that'll light a fire. We'll see how that goes. We haven't done it before, so I'm going to try it this year and see how it goes.
Hey, I have just as you were talking there, Bruce, another idea that I had done in the past, and I completely forgot about it when I was mentioning this, and maybe it's just a little bonus that we can throw in here. It's a program that we ran that involved a lot of thought, and it actually cost us a lot of money, but what it brought back to us was exponential in terms of what it cost us, and we called it the Share the Love program. And basically what it was is we chose, I think we ended up doing it to 20 or 25 of our clients, like sort of our best clients. And we made up like a little package, and it was like boxed, and it was like sort of a big thing. But to each of those clients, we mailed them 5 gift certificates for a portrait session each. And we mailed them their own gift certificate. And we mailed them 5 letters that the intent was for them to give it to 5 of their friends. So basically the program was, if Bruce, if you were my client, it was, hey Bruce, we've really enjoyed working together. We're looking forward to continuing to work together. We'd love to have more families like yours, work with our studio because we really just love working with you guys. So if you have 5 friends, I'd like to give you 5 gift certificates that you can give to your friends from you. It costs you absolutely nothing. And in exchange for this, not only do you look like the hero because you're giving out 5 gift certificates, but I'm actually going to give you a gift certificate as well that you can use next time that we do a portrait session towards your prints. And so I literally give them 5 little packages that they can give to 5 of their friends, and then when those friends redeem them, obviously I've got a new client, and then I can do that in the future with those clients. So I've done that in the past. We did it one time actually, and it was hugely successful. We had a huge influx of new clients that year that were qualified, high-quality clients because they were referred directly from someone that we love working with.
Yeah, so you made it easy for them to give that referral, because I think a lot of times
Exactly.
we say, I think a lot of us say, hey, if you know anybody else getting married or something, we love it if you pass our name along, and that's about as far as it goes. You actually gave
Right.
them something like a
Yep.
tool to make it easier, even easier for them to do that.
Exactly.
Robert, have you done anything like that with your clients?
Not to that extent that Brian's done it. I've offered, I've had clients in the past, want to refer me, and and specific clients, and I'm like, hey, if you do that, then I'll do this for you, type of thing. But I've never done a promotion like that.
Excellent. No, that's a good tip. I like that. So I want to let's circle back because I want to touch on the timelines and the deadlines thing, because I think that's an important consideration that maybe a lot of newer photographers, maybe if it's their first year, maybe even their second year in business, maybe they haven't thought as much about that. But what are your guys' timelines and deadlines as far as Christmas goes, and what are those based around? What are some of the factors that influence those deadlines around Christmas time? Just again, sort of more advice for newer photographers, like keep this in mind when you're doing, if you are going to run something that's a Christmas sale or Christmas promotion.
Well, as far as a promotion, or even like I know Brian brushed on it, like albums. So of course, this is a wedding show, and hopefully we're all selling wedding albums.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like Brian mentioned, your album company will have a deadline. And I always do the same thing. Like I even sometimes go 3 weeks to a month in front of my album company deadline, because I'll tell you, to the new photographers, and the other people listening can concur, but you'll get that client whose wedding you did a year and a half ago, and then they'll come to you, 2 weeks before the deadline and want to order their album, and you say to them, well, this is probably going to be hard because my cutoff, and then they'll get mad at you. Or you just have to have that deadline. I mean, I think the most important thing is you don't want to take that order and try to please that client if you know it's physically impossible, because ultimately you're the one that's going to suffer in the beginning, because you'll have that client, like I said, that procrastinated for a year, and then they'll place the order and expect you to jump through hoops in 3 weeks to meet their deadlines. I mean, I get this all the time. I've had people that I had a bride just yesterday text me that I did her wedding, I want to say in 2006 or 7 or something like that, and she's like, I want to get my albums done because I want to give it to my husband for his birthday. Well, when's his birthday? In a month. It's not just a month-long process. I've given you all this time for you to do what you need to do, and you're not doing it. There's way more to that story, but she's definitely one who's procrastinated.
Yeah, yeah. Clients will absolutely procrastinate. So you do like you say, if you have a deadline with your album company, like I think our album company to deliver, guarantee the delivery before Christmas. Now that's again, they're saying guarantee the delivery by Christmas. That might mean December 23rd,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
So now you have to also factor in, okay, how are you then getting it to your client? Are you going to want to be running around on Christmas Eve like Santa's little helper? Delivering albums all over the place. I know I don't. That's not how I want to spend my Christmas Eve, right? So I always make sure if I'm going to get any product in or get it out to a client, December 20th is the absolute sort of end game for me. I don't want to be spending the last couple of days before Christmas running around in the snow and fighting traffic and everything else, because I'm probably going to need to be doing my Christmas shopping at that point. So, because I'm a guy and that's what we do, right? So I know that my deadline internally is going to be December 20th, and then I kind of work backwards from there. So most of the album companies, it's usually mid-November is typically their cutoff, if you want to have it in time for Christmas. So again, I'll usually start, telling clients if you don't have your final kind of order in by the first week of November, second week of November, then we can't guarantee Christmas delivery. We can certainly still take your order and happy to process your order. We just can't guarantee Christmas delivery if you submit it after, X date. And our album company is in Italy, and they actually shut down. They're European, so they actually know how to take holidays, and they shut down for like 3-4 weeks, and they're not open again until the beginning of the year. So if they place an order after the Christmas cutoff deadline, then they typically aren't going to see their album until mid-January, end of January. So that's something, if you're a new photographer, kind of keep that in the back of your head, is you're going to have, Christmas deadlines, and there's always going to be this mad Christmas rush. People want to get stuff. We're creatures of habit. We're procrastinators by nature. If you have a deadline, change that deadline so that you're allowing yourself enough time to get that order submitted, placed, packaged, delivered, whatever needs to be done to that package.
And I think that's true if you think about, even if we go back to our promotions and whatever promotion you decide to run, think of it in reverse. So, you want to get, Christmas cards or whatever you're going to do, you have to kind of think about it backwards. All right, well, if I want to shoot sessions for holiday cards, well, I probably want to have those shot by November 30th at probably the latest. I mean, yes, you could go into, because people procrastinate, into a couple weeks in November, but I would set mine at November 30th. So if I want to get all those shot, that means I need to probably shoot them in October and November, and that means I need to start running that promotion probably in September.
Yep.
So you just kind of have to think, or whatever it is, whatever your workflow might be, like Bruce just mentioned, shipping and those things, you have to kind of think about that and then work backwards, and then that's how you should set your deadlines for your promotions.
Yep, absolutely. Brian, any thoughts on deadlines and?
No, I mean, I'm on the same train of thought as you guys. I just think it's really important that we set expectations with our clients. I have no problem blaming my lab on things like that. Like I actually like I guess in a way it's a tactic, because I don't want them to be like, oh, come on, Brian, you can do it. I missed the deadline, you can do it. I basically tell them, if I know, Bruce, I'm like you, if I know my deadline for my lab is December 1, I work 2 weeks back from there, and I tell my clients that my deadline is 2 weeks before then. So if it's November 14th, I actually reach out to my clients and say, if you want guaranteed delivery for Christmas time, my deadline is November 14th, and that's for my lab. So unfortunately, anything placed after November 14th will be done after Christmas. And I also set the expectation that anything after November 14th won't be touched until after Christmas. Because I explained that my labs are busy doing all the rush orders for Christmas, that they won't even be touching things that don't make that deadline until after Christmas anyways. Yep. So it's either before November 14th, and that's dictated to me by my lab. I tell my clients that, and I say anything after that we'll be looking at into the new year, possibly end of January, beginning of February. So I'm very explicit about that, and I use the it's my lab's deadline as the excuse so that they don't be like, oh, come on, Brian, it's like it's one day after, come on, we can do it. I basically say, listen, I'm so sorry, like that's the deadline that's dictated to me by my lab, so I don't have any control over that.
Yep, and it is. I mean, realistically, It is. It's not something that's you're not lying to your clients. It is that labs have these deadlines, right? But you're right. Clients will try to push that. They'll try to see how far they can push it, right? And come on, you can do a favor, right? So it's definitely the lab deadline is, and I found they're pretty hard with that deadline, right? So. And you also have to budget too for unforeseen things too, right? Like our album shipped from Italy. Sometimes stuff happens with shipments, right? Christmas time. anything can happen, right? There can be flight delays, there can be all kinds of things can happen, and stuff, might take a couple extra days. Well, if you were expecting it December 23rd and it's delayed by a couple of days, well, guess what? Santa's already come and gone by then. So,
Yeah.
so you have to give yourself some of that wiggle room too, and set those expectations, like you say, with clients. So yeah, lab meet bus, bus meet lab. We love our labs, but yes, you have to set those expectations realistically with clients. So let's talk maybe about products. What are some products that maybe would appeal to, and let's specifically talk about wedding clients. Obviously, there's some things we could do around portrait sales and that kind of stuff. But are there products specifically that wedding photographers maybe they haven't considered before, maybe they haven't added it to their product line that you guys maybe have found are successful and that are particularly good at Christmas? I think we've all mentioned parent albums. Are there other products like parent albums that you've found are appealing to brides and grooms that maybe would make a good Christmas promotion, or a product that they might purchase?
Well, I think the immediate one that comes to mind would be a portrait. I mean, again, we're in an age where most people are not ordering reprints anymore. I mean, it's up to us to sort of push those sales and encourage people to order them from us. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, wall portraits, that's a great time of year to do a wall portrait promotion and say, hey, normally my 16 by 20s are $500, but, for Christmas holidays, we're doing them for $300 for, the next 2 weeks. Again, creates emergency, put a deadline on it, but make it a nice value add and make sure you're going to still make a good profit. Maybe you can offer the part of the promotion on the print and then follow up with a frame offer, like, hey, we'll frame it too for there's creative ways to do that. Even holiday cards, we've talked about that. A lot of times people use their wedding photo, especially the first year they're married, as their holiday cards. Mm-hmm. I know there's not a huge profit in holiday cards, I guess, depending on how you do them. The idea is you want them to order from you and not from one of the other bazillion other outlets. But if you did it in such a way where you're selling 4x6 prints, you sell 300 4x6 prints, 200 4x6 prints, even at a great discounted rate, you probably could still make $1 on each one of those prints. Maybe you sold them for $2 as opposed to your normal $10 fee for a 4x6, but based on the quantity in one image, and you sell 300, so you make 300 quick dollars. Mm-hmm. You just got to think it that way.
Yeah, and you do that over 7 or 8 clients.
Right.
And there you go. Yeah, those are some good tips. So some portraits, some Christmas cards. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, my business model is perhaps a little bit like I serve the quasi higher end, like not like the top of the line, because that's just not my niche. But for me, my advice would be, and maybe this is a little bit bold, but to say don't get caught up into the kitschy kind of products. Like, and again, this is just my opinion as a wedding photographer. I know that there's all kinds of great products that we can use, like, handbags, or little
keychains,
like keychains, or I saw one company last year at WPPI that had shower curtains that you could have your photo printed onto, and it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine going into my bathroom in the morning and seeing a giant wedding photo of me and my wife as I'm showering. I mean, that's just weird. But my thought is that wedding photography is a traditional act, right? I mean, it is supposed to be classy and elegant and traditional, and so my thought would be stick with those products that are suitable for that kind of photography. So it's as simple as doing prints, which would include either just flat prints or wall portraits or canvases, but then on top of that, albums and parent albums. Those would be my that's the core of what a wedding photographer should be offering. And I think if we go too far outside of that, we could just be seen as being a little bit kind of kitschy, And,
right.
and I try to avoid that in my own business, and that's what I would recommend that to most photographers, I think.
Yeah.
The only other one that I might consider is I know that some album companies offer substantially lower priced book type options, little kind of like flip books almost. You can get them for $30 or $40, and you can get them in packs of 8 or something.
Yeah, little mini books. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that Graphy does that. I think there's obviously quite a few other companies that do that, but they're really low price. The quality is nowhere near what would be there in an album, but it might be something nice if you wanted to say, hey, you could give these to your aunts or your uncles or your grandparents, or just some little things like you'd say you could get a pack of 8 of them for, $300, $400. If it costs you, $50, that's not a horrible idea.
Yeah.
So that would be the only area that I might say would make sense to go into those sort of smaller kind of kitschy type products. But outside of that, yeah, I mean albums, prints, wall portraits, and even at that, like you really have to think about offering what makes sense, right? I mean, like if you were to offer to your clients, oh well, you can get a wall portrait, and you can get it canvas, and you can get it mounted, and you can get aluminum, and you can get it printed on acrylic, and you can get it float mounted, and you can get it framed, and we have 1,000 frame options. Like, it's just too overwhelming for people. So you have to pick what makes sense for you and keep it simple, because if you have to give them a Chinese takeout menu, oftentimes the choice it's too much to choose from. They're going to choose nothing.
Yeah.
So you have to be smart about what you're offering them as well.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe focus your promotion on a very specific product,
Exactly.
like
Yeah,
a parent
exactly.
album, and say let's drill in on parent albums this year,
Yep.
and promote them, and really focus on that aspect and see
Totally.
build it from that.
Totally.
Yep. Excellent. Good suggestions. Well, I think we've given our listeners hopefully some good advice in terms of how to drive some revenue or increase their revenue, or help hopefully improve their cash flow over the slower months, whenever those might be for you. It might be around Christmas time. Again, it might be in a different time of year depending where you're located in the world, but hopefully that's some good advice. So we're running a little bit long today, so I'm going to skip the listener question this week, and we'll put that over to our next show. But I want to get to our picks of the weeks because I know Brian has to jet here pretty quick. So let's quickly go through our picks of the week. What have you guys got for us that are picks of the week?
So I'm going to just go with look at the Facebook thing. Like, I think it's kind of interesting to market your holiday portraits and those type of things. Put a post on your Facebook page. Hopefully you have one, and then pay to promote it. You can hone down the demographics. You can say, I only wanted to go to these 5 cities in my area. I wanted to go to females, because it's primarily who's going to be looking at that, 25 to 50 if that's your range, people who are going to spend money on portraits, that have children. Those are all things that you can, and the more you hone it down and are specific, the more people it will go to based on the dollar spend that you want to reach.
Exactly, yes. And we talked about this. If you go back, we had an episode where it was dedicated all to your managing your online presence. We had a 3-part series, and we did in one of the episodes talk about Facebook advertising specifically. So go back and listen to that episode as well. Have some tips in there for you. So Facebook advertising, excellent. Brian, what have you got for us this week?
So if we're talking about offering products to your clients and having this high perceived value, right? I mean, we can't just, if a client, even with regards to holidays or even just in general in your business, if you give them a 4x6 print that you just charge them $25 for, that they know that piece of paper could have been had for 25 cents over at Walmart. Of course, there's the argument of the work that goes into it, but I really think that if we want to have a high perceived value, we need to be packaging our prints and treating them with the level of care and attention and with a boutique style that we should be, because we're charging the prices that we're charging. And so packaging is a huge thing for photographers, and I think that we need to really pay a lot of attention to making sure that everything looks professional. There's a ton of resources out there for packaging, but one of my favorite, I love Design-A-Glow. Design-A-Glow in general, they've got some incredible templates, some amazing resources for photographers over there, but they actually have a whole packaging line that you can go and order USB drives and boxes and tissue paper and ribbons and bows and totes to put your products in, and everything that you would need to give your products, whether it's a print, an album, a book, anything, a really nice, finished, polished look. So I would recommend that. And then, Bruce, I know when we were talking off air about this, you also have a resource that you were going to recommend that I'll just kind of punt quickly because you pivoted. They've got specific to holiday stuff, they've got a client holiday gift kit. And in that, you've basically got you've got greeting cards, you've got some different cards, some ornaments, some magnets, a whole bunch of little things that you can have as a little gift kit that you can give to your clients. So designaglow.com is an amazing resource, and they have a ton of different things for you, no matter what you're looking for. So that's my pick of the week.
Awesome, excellent pick, and I was actually going to make that a pick as well, so we're on the same page there. So I'm going to pick one of the elements that's in that. There's a holiday gift kit that they have from Design and Glow, and one of the elements that's in there is a metal ornaments that you can get. They're made from Pro DPI. There's probably other labs that offer these things as well, but there's these really nice metal ornaments. Again, you can get a photograph done on one side, and then you can put a message on the back side. And so one of the things we're looking to do this year is we're going to make some of those up and just send them out to our clients as little thank yous with, choose a photograph from their wedding and then just a little message on the back. And it's a little Christmas ornament that they can hang on their tree. Congratulations on your first Christmas as a married couple or something to that effect. And hopefully it'll be something that they'll hang on to for years and years, and it'll become that, kind of that keepsake ornament that they keep on their tree, and then look on the back and they'll always remember that, we were their wedding photographer. So that's something that we're going to be sending out as a little client thank you gift. Again, keeping ourselves front of mind in front of our clients, and maybe they'll need us for some family photos if they make some babies over Christmas.
Would it be awkward if you wrote that in a letter to them?
Maybe.
Please make babies so we
Please
can
make
sell you portraits.
Yes. Excellent. Good job. Well, good picks, guys. Again, we'll have links to all of the picks of the week in the show notes for this episode. Well, I think that brings us to the end of another episode of TWiP Weddings. So I want to thank our sponsors again for their support, and we want to remind our audience, please send in your questions and comments for the show, and share your thoughts by leaving your comments, or talk about us on our Facebook group, or get in there and start discussing things. So before we go, what's everybody up to in the next little while, and where can we go to find you online? Brian, what have you got going on?
Well, we are, I guess by the time this goes live, we're probably publicly launched with Sprout Studio, so that is, I'm predicting that's going to be super exciting, but yes, that should be the case, because I'm kind of speaking to the future right now. This is the future version of Brian talking to himself.
Future Brian.
So yeah, I mean, obviously I've mentioned Sprout Studio here on the podcast a number of times. Quick background, it allows photographers to do all their business management, all their business processes, and it really streamlines the workflow into one nice place. So it's a web-based software. It allows you to do proofing with online galleries, digital fulfillment, all your invoicing and your client management and questionnaires. Allows you to do album proofing, sales galleries, a whole bunch of things all in one place. So you don't have to log in, log out to a bunch of different softwares, and your client has a nice consistent workflow as well. So they only have to go to one place to get everything to do with their photography. So we're super excited about that. You can find out more information about that at getsproutstudio.com. Now I'll close out the pitch and talk about the funner educational stuff that I do, because I love it. Sproutingphotographer.com is where I write and do a podcast all about the business of photography, completely free, no strings attached. You can go join us over there. By the time this goes live, I'll have just probably gotten back from speaking at Canada Photo Convention, and in October I'm flying down to Orlando to speak at another photography conference for real estate photographers, so that'd be kind of fun. So I love talking and teaching about the business of photography, so if you want to find some free education about that stuff, sproutingphotographer.com is where I live.
Awesome, good stuff. And if people want to see your wedding work, because you do amazing wedding work, where can we go to see your wedding work?
I do that sometimes too. Yeah, yeah. My wedding photography site is bcapphoto.com. BCAP photo.com. There's 2 P's in there.
Awesome, good stuff. We'll put links to all those things in the show notes.
Awesome, thanks.
Mr. Evans, what have you got going on? Where can we find you hanging out?
Well, by the time this goes live too, I will have probably returned from Photo Plus, so thank you all who came out to Photo Plus and saw the show.
It was a great success, right?
It was a great success.
Rave reviews.
Sony booth was just blowing up.
Nice.
All the new cameras and lenses that they have out. What else am I doing? Mentioned I will have shot Google Zeitgeist by now. That was amazing speakers. Just an amazing experience. My second year in a row doing that. But if you want to find me in the present, then you can just go to robertevans.com and see what we're doing over there. Instagram, Twitter, at Robert Evans, and Facebook page is Robert Evans Studios.
Excellent. Good stuff. And if you're looking for me, I'm not as cool as these guys. I'm not speaking anywhere in the future. So You'll just have to
But
find me
you
online.
teach, you speak every week. What are you talking
Well,
about?
again, I suppose yes. You'll find me here. You'll find me here. So I will be teaching, but locally, just in Edmonton. I've got my off-camera flash and my lighting workshops, which I will have already taught by the time this goes live. So again, I'm sure they were fantastic and amazing, and people love them. So, but if you want to find me online, you can visit our website, which is momentsindigital.com. And if you want to follow me online, I'm at Bruce Clark with an E, on pretty much most of the social networks, Instagram, Twitter, Google+, all those good places. And of course, be sure to visit our website at thisweekinphoto.com for all episodes of TWiP Weddings and lots of the other great shows in the TWiP network. And thanks again for listening to TWiP Weddings, raising the bar one wedding at a time.